This is the longest we've gone without a new 3D Mario. With the launch of any Nintendo console, a 3D Mario game is close behind, usually sold around Christmas but announced way ahead of time. It was assured that every console came with a new, innovative adventure for Mario to go on. So, does anyone else notice a different vibe around Nintendo? The hesitance to announce games, the focus on third-party games, the sequel console, heck, the Switch 2 exclusive From Software game? That's a bit odd from Nintendo, as well as a few other marketing decisions. If you're failing to put a name to it, you might be thinking of the phenomenon Disneyification, a term that I coined just now. When Disney started to become a monopoly, they focused on copyright, theme parks, and bought out a lot of third-party media that focused on older audiences, something we see Nintendo doing now. But what does that have to do with our favorite guy, Mario? Well, it's officially been the longest gap of time since we've had a mainline Mario game. Nintendo has been radio silent since Odyssey. Does this have anything to do with the character redesigns, the focus on other things, or maybe the recent recasting of Mario? The answer is likely all of the above. Walk with me, will you? You know Mario, right? Red Plumber, Jumpman, the Wahoo guy, if you will? How exactly has Nintendo defined their poster boy for the last 40 years? Well, the voice of Mario, Charles Martinet, has some thoughts on that. When first auditioning for Mario, he was told to voice an Italian plumber. He immediately thought of doing a gruff voice with a Brooklyn accent, but then considered that this was a game for children. So he used a much more playful and excited voice. This is how the voice of Mario came to be. Mario is a man of wonder and whimsy. We see this from 3D games especially. Mario 64 was meant to be Mario's introduction into 3D, and takes place with the hub world being Peach's castle. Mario Sunshine is a fun, zany beach episode. Galaxy is more somber and existential due to Rosalina and her story, but Mario serves as joyous perseverance, the light in the dark if you will. These themes of Mario games got progressively more in-depth and defining of Mario games. That is, until Mario 3D World. This was the spiritual successor to Mario 3D Land for the 3DS. Mario 3D Land was made to work as a 2D Mario game that basically got put into 3D to showcase the 3DS's compatibilities. So it was far more similar to the overall themes and aesthetic of Mario 64, rather than Sunshine or Galaxy, which had a completely new location. 3D World actually went back to 2D Mario tactics of working through levels on a map rather than having a hub world. Now, I absolutely love 3D World, but it was an odd one out when it came to 3D Mario, especially because all of the previous Mario games were meant to showcase new features for the console. Mario 64 showcased 3D for the first time. Sunshine worked with water physics and Galaxy with a gravitational pull. Mario 3D World actively went back to the gimmick of 64. While Mario 3D World is a callback to Mario 3D Land, it also takes a lot of influence from the new Super Mario Bros., a plague that took over Mario games from the Nintendo DS up to the Nintendo Switch. This game was a Mario side-scroller in the style of the original Mario Bros. Game. But this was the first Mario game to include cooperative gameplay between 4 players. This game did so well that New Super Mario Bros. Got 7 games and remakes in the series. New Super Mario Bros. Is the epitome of classic 2D Mario gameplay with multiplayer thrown in. This era was Nintendo's turn back to classic Mario gameplay. And this is why 3D World included much more standard Mario levels with a map world and multiplayer. There was some criticism about this gameplay infecting a 3D Mario. 3D Mario tended to be more of a turn away from traditional gameplay with a hub world and a showcase of console innovations, which was lacking in 3D World. And Nintendo responded with a few comebacks for 3D Mario. 3D World got a DLC that included a hub world, single-player gameplay, and levels that were interconnected with each other, much more similar to typical 3D Mario games. But the next game we got was a much hyped and very loved game.
Here we go.
Mario Odyssey had been teased for a while. It had originally been hinted at 2016, then showcased in January 2017, even though the release date was October. This Mario game had very expansive and detailed areas with a lot to do, and 880 power moons. It created a new world that was interesting to explore. However, it also didn't showcase any innovative technology or gimmicks from the Switch, and it didn't quite have the theming that the other games like Sunshine or Galaxy had. Odyssey isn't exactly a Greek retelling. The beach fun of Sunshine and the quiet beauty of Galaxy define them. Odyssey isn't really defined by the wedding theme, and the worlds don't really follow any direct theme. And 3D World isn't really defined by its cat theme either. Not that it's an essential part of Mario games, but it forces the question, what's next? Mario's anniversary is coming up soon. On Mario's 35th anniversary, there was a Mario Nintendo Direct that announced the All-Star Collection, a port of all 3D games and a DLC for 3D World. Mario's 40th anniversary is coming up, and considering the lack of 3D Mario on the Switch too, it would honestly be odd if a 3D Mario wasn't announced in the coming time. So what can we expect? And why has there been such a large gap in games? My theory is that the gap has been very intentional. It's a purposeful stalling tactic, and Nintendo has been plotting during this gap. Let's go back to the beginning. Not the beginning of Nintendo, but the beginning of the new Mario, the igniting event that caused it all to go down.
What? Will be played by Chris. First, of course, is Mario. He will be played by Chris Pratt.
This isn't a meme! No! That's
so
not-
cool.
What?!
Mario will be talking
Serious?
a lot in the movie.
This is a joke. No. Shut up. No. No. Are you kidding me?
For some godforsaken reason, Chris Pratt was announced to play Mario in an upcoming movie. This decision was clowned on quite a bit, as it felt like an out-of-touch decision to get a famous actor on the poster credits. But there was a much more important issue, in my opinion, one that was discussed by fans. Charles Martinet had been voicing Mario, Luigi, Wario, and Waluigi for 20 years. He's a professional voice actor. Why on earth wouldn't you hire him to play Mario? To those thinking he might have refused the role, Martinet stated before the casting was announced that he would be honored to play Mario in the movie. And for those suggesting that maybe the voice would have been too annoying or grating to hear for an entire movie, I remind you of the fact that Charles Martinet originally planned to audition for the role of Mario with a Brooklyn accent, which is the voice direction that was decided for the Mario movie. Also, I don't think you've ever played a Mario game before. Nothing can be more annoying than a repeated voice line in a video game played over and over again.
It's no use! Take this! It's no use! Take this! It's no use!
But Charles Martinet has always made Mario's voice so endearing, and it's fun to hear the same old wahoo over and over again. What I'm saying is, if you don't get sick of hearing a voice in a video game, you probably wouldn't in a movie. But I'll get off my soapbox now. The voicing of Chris Pratt, as well as Anna Joy Taylor, over the Nintendo voice actors was actually an indicator of what was to come. The movie also redesigned the Mario characters to give them a bit more of a realistic and Western animation style to compromise with Illumination's involvement on the project. Before the Mario movie could even come out, there was an announcement that Charles Martinet was no longer going to be voicing Mario or any of the Mario characters. Nintendo stated that Martinet was retiring and would be working the role of Mario Ambassador. Charles Martinet had openly stated that he wanted to continue playing Mario till the day he died. So excuse my speculation, but considering the role of Mario Ambassador which Nintendo made for him, and these statements, I think it would be wrong to assume that Charles Martinet himself made the decision to step down. It's possible that Nintendo saw how attached fans were to the voice of Mario and how difficult it would be to move on if Martinet ever did step down, or if he did play Mario until he died. If that happened, fans would find it hard to pick up a new Mario game. On the other hand, Nintendo also could have just decided it was time for a rebrand. Either way, there was no send-off. Charles's last official game was Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Joy. It would have been nice if it had been the movie, but it wasn't. Nintendo then remastered Mario vs. Donkey Kong and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door with Martinet's original voice acting, but there were no new recordings after that. After the movie, there was Super Mario Wonder, a game featuring a larger cast of characters and a new art style. It was more cartoony and stylized. It fit well with the game's theme, so no one batted an eye. Mario has been in many different styles. After that, there would be a Princess Peach game, her first in a decade. This is when Nintendo's moves got a bit more noticeable. The voice actors for Princess Peach, Samantha Kelly, seemed to have different voice direction for voicing Princess Peach. Her lines were in a lower register, similarly to how Movie Peach talks.
Time to shine. To the Mushroom Kingdom and the biggest fight of our lives.
It was a bit more average sounding, a departure from the very high and soft voice in previous games. Then there was the box art. When the game was first announced, the box art had Peach's normal design on the front. However, when the game released, the box art changed her design. It wasn't the model used in-game. Instead, it was closer to the movie. Nintendo seemed very adamant to change the public image of Peach into the one we saw in the movie. Apparently, you can make a movie accurate to the source material retroactively. And soon after, we would get the announcement for the Switch 2. A new Mario Kart game and a Donkey Kong game were announced, both with heavy redesigns. Here, we learned that the stylized wonder was actually a catalyst of the art style Nintendo would be leaning into. Nintendo was taking these baby steps in order to redesign its characters. The art style switch, the new designs, they were all being implemented slowly but surely. Donkey Kong was redesigned very quickly to fit a more cartoony and Western interpretation. Again, he looks eerily similar to his movie design. But Donkey Kong wasn't the only change. Samantha Kelly was silently let go, which was revealed when she wasn't credited on Mario Kart World. She stated publicly that she would have loved to keep playing Princess Peach, Toad, and Toadette forever, but that Nintendo had silently kept her off the project and that she hadn't known until the release of Mario Kart World. And she seemed to not be the only one. Princess Daisy's voice actor had been replaced before Super Mario Wonder. Again, it would have been a nice send-off to finally have her be in a playable 2D Mario with her original voice actor. Deanna Mustard had been voicing Daisy since 2003. It's not clear why Deanna actually left the role. There was a statement saying that maybe it was to focus on her acting career. Nintendo stated that she retired, but given how Nintendo had been gutting their voice department, I wouldn't be surprised if she was let go as well. So, if Mario has no set design or voice, who is he? Or who will he be? We've seen Nintendo's attempt to advertise the processing ability of the Switch 2, so I assume the next Mario will be big, and it will have to be if they've waited this long to announce it. Yoshiaki Kozumi, the producer of Super Mario Odyssey, has not produced another Nintendo game since Odyssey, which leads me and other fans to speculate that he's been working on the next 3D Mario. If this is the case, a larger world would make sense considering the work on Odyssey. And especially considering that this is a sequel console, they're going to try to replicate what they did with Odyssey. Though, I don't think we'll be receiving a sequel to Odyssey given the changes that are being made to Mario. Of course, this is all speculation, but Odyssey did its best to change a bit while keeping adjacent to older 3D Mario games. It was a return to exploration, but it lacked a hub world. It was a new world to explore, but the setting was all over the globe. It had plenty of callbacks to classic Mario games, but it wasn't interested in the typical 3D theme that would make it fit into the Mario collection. Donkey Kong Bonanza built on the world of New Donk City, meaning that this Mario game may return to that world as well. Nintendo is rebuilding its own story and setting. Chances are, it's going to rebuild Mario too. The Mario we see in Odyssey is independent and always moving, never in the same place and willing to complete a lot of side quests. There's a reason this game seemed to connect with a lot of speedrunners. It focused heavily on the movement, with less effort being put into the aesthetic and overall themes of the game. It gave players a lot to do, while not really interconnecting them all into one big story. Given Nintendo's statement on the relationship between Mario and Peach, I'm guessing we won't see any more kisses between the two. Though Peach is usually the catalyst for Mario, we may see a departure from that as well, like in 3D World. But starting at 3D World, there was a lack of notes between Peach and Mario, or beach vacations between the two. There's much less of a personal connection in Mario games starting with 3D World. We used to really connect with the characters and feel a lot when they were captured, emotional, or even sacrificed. Now, saving Peach is treated like a joke where Mario's advances are unwanted. Even if they aren't romantic, it would be nice to see them interact with friends. Mario is warm and fun because of his relationships with people. Mario comes across a lot of new friendly faces in Odyssey, but not really one that stays with him for the whole game. In Mario Sunshine, Peach isn't captured for a little while, so we have a little while with her in-game. Meanwhile, Bowser Jr. kind of stays with us throughout the game as a rival. In Galaxy, we have Rosalina along the journey with us, back at the hub world so we can talk to her at any point. And we see her every time we finish a level. This isn't really true for the characters in Odyssey like Pauline. She's a friendly face along the journey, but we don't really talk to her that much, and once we leave New Donk City, we might never see her again. It seems like Mario will become a more independent rolling stone with friendly faces along the way to define his journey, not his destination. Nintendo is very smart about making little changes that can go unnoticed. But it's clear they're going for a rebrand of all of their characters. I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to westernize Mario a little bit. And though I don't think we're going to see any big changes in Mario, I think he's going to look a little different, sound a little different, and act a little different. I also think he's probably going to be a much less personable guy. Whether that comes out of the lack of Charles Martinet as the voice actor, or just how he's chosen to be written. Now that Nintendo is making it clear that he and Peach aren't romantic and little details like that, it feels like they're going for a much more stereotypical blank slate. We haven't really seen Mario since Charles Martinet stepped down. We've only had one 2D Mario since then. And other than Mario Kart and Brothership, Mario has only been seen in remade games with his original voice acting. My guess is that Nintendo has been stalling and it doesn't know how to pull this new Mario off without upsetting fans. The truth is, this won't be the same Mario. This is a new Mario. And there's no way for Nintendo to hide that from us. The new Mario is immortal, with no design or voice actor to tie him into our world. Which is exactly what Nintendo wants, a Mario that can live forever and be free from timely restraints to stop him from being their marketable mascot. By untying Mario from his voice and look, Nintendo has made a new Mario. So let's look at the old Mario. His story is one of love and adventure, and always returning home at the end of the day, which is where his loved ones are. I would have liked if Charles Martinet and Samantha Kelly had a bit of a better send-off. In a way, it's poetic that Mario and Peach are together now, in a sense. I might have even liked the ending shown in the concept art for Odyssey, where it's implied that the two could have gotten married. Then it would be Prince Mario, and the next Mario would simply start the cycle all over again. It's possible that Nintendo struck gold with Link and Zelda, being reincarnated time after time again, being able to get redesigned and retold, and they wanted that for Mario. I do think this is the end of an era, and I'm intrigued on what the next one will be, but I'll always hold this one in high regard, and it's going to be very hard to top.
Well, what kind of a voice does this have? Is it one of those, hey, I'm a bummer from Brooklyn, so and I thought, no, I don't want a character that's mean or gruff or has edges. I want it to be someone who is lovable and a sort of everyman character. Let's a party! And I'm sitting there thinking, well, what does that sound like? And all of a sudden what popped out of my mouth was, hello, it's me, Mario, woohoo!